So I'm really grateful to Matt. See, I'm on Brian. I'm grateful to Matt for starting our sermon series, Making Room, last week. And this is a sermon series, if you weren't here, where we're starting to prepare for what the world calls the holidays, right? Thanksgiving is coming. I was in Trader Joe's the other day, and they were like, turkeys will be here on the 15th, right? Thanksgiving is coming, and Christmas is coming. On our trip, we came back through the airport in Frankfurt. And as I was walking through the airport, I saw my first Christmas tree of the year. It was up and it was decorated. Now I've seen like my fifth right back here. But I saw these things. And actually, I was on Facebook and I saw people who have already fully decorated their homes for Christmas. And then I started to judge until someone shared an article that said people who decorate early for Christmas are happier. And then I kept judging, right? So, the truth is, y'all, it's coming. It's like a snowball rolling down the hill. The holidays are on their way, and if that brings you anxiety, welcome to the club. Right? I'm going to invite, Jackson's going to come up, so he's going to start heading in this direction. But making room, this concept that we're talking about as we head into the holidays is a pretty tricky one. Because you know what the hard part about making room is? When you make room, sometimes it means you got to get rid of something. Right? Sometimes you've got to take something off the plate. Sometimes you've got to move something away from you. And this concept about making room is a really important one. Now, some of you may have heard of a woman named Marie Kondo. Have you heard of this woman? She's all the craze right now, right? There's a picture of Marie Kondo here. She is a young woman who has changed the way people have gotten rid of stuff. Because for her, what she wants you to do is she wants you to pick up the item. She wants you to hold it, and she wants you to decide if it sparks joy in you. So today, as we talk about making room, we're going to be talking about making room for people. So I want you to think, as we're looking at the next scripture that Jackson's going to read for us in just a moment, I want you to think about who are the people in your life that spark joy for you. Who are the people that you want to hold up, that you want to lift up, that you want to think about? Because, friends, it is easy in the holiday season, as it's referred to forget about the people. It's easy to forget about who you need to make room for. So Jackson is going to read Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 to 24. And as he reads it, I want you to think about what are the metaphorical storehouses of your life. So let's see how well this guy can read.
Stop collecting treasures of your own benefit on earth, where moth and rust eat them and where thieves break in and steal them. Instead, collect treasures for yourselves in heaven, where moth and rust don't eat them and where thieves don't break in and steal them. Where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. The eye is the lamp of the body. Therefore, if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light in you is darkness, how terrible that darkness will be. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be loyal to the one and contempt for the other. You cannot serve God and wealth.
That's pretty good. Good job, man. Good job. All right. I want you to think about this passage. This passage is often a passage that people use when they talk about money, right? Your treasure. I want you to think about treasure differently today. Who are your people treasure? Who are the people that you hold on to? Because, friends, this passage is very clear. It's going to be hard for some of us to understand. It's very clear. Stuff is not the most important thing. Bigger, better, greater is not the most important thing. I will make you a promise. Over the next year, you will hear many places and stories and see pictures of where I spent my last 2 weeks. And today is day one. Okay, so Herod, King Herod, he's the guy who's king. Jesus is born. He wants to go after Jesus. He doesn't like that somebody else might be king. And Herod is really about stuff. So I want to show you some pictures of Herod's place, Caesarea Maritima. That's me and Sharon. Where's Sharon? Where is she? Oh, Sharon, why don't you wave your hand so people see you in real life? So that's me and Sharon. I just thought you'd like that picture. But anyway, keep going. These are pictures of Caesarea Maritima. And this was a place that Herod built. It was a fortress out on the water. It was a really cool place that had places for horses to race. It had this 16 miles of aqueduct that took water where it needed to go. I mean, it was a really, really, really powerful place. Except that we got there probably a little later than its prime. Right? The place wasn't still looking like a huge, beautiful palace and fortress. They would say, that's where that happened. And that's where that used to happen. And when they talked about Herod's life, what they said was, Herod liked a lot of stuff. He built up all this stuff and built these walls and these fortresses and these places. And here I am visiting one of his places. And I went, that's kind of cool. Because it was just stuff. It was just a place. Years and years later, I think he missed what Christ is talking about. I think he missed the experience of treasure. Sure, Herod thought he had a lot of treasure, but he missed the experience of treasure. More possessions, more money, more doesn't make for a better life. It doesn't improve your quality of life. If anything, it can have the opposite effect. The more we focus our attention on what we own, the higher chances that we have a life that's filled with worry. We don't have enough. We want to own more. We want to have more stuff. And the truth is, there will be some day where the stuff that you had just doesn't matter anymore. There will come a time where it doesn't matter. On its surface, this passage is about where we put our energy and where we put our hope. And Jesus says you can do it in one of two places. One of those places is to put your energy and your hope, what I call stuff, on the things of this world, what the world says. And Jesus says if you do that, it's the place where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. That doesn't sound too exciting, does it? It's the place where stuff just kind of gets eaten away. It goes away. And Jesus contrasts that and he says, or we can store our treasures in heaven. Focus on the things that matter to Christ, ultimately will matter to our lives, where Jesus says, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. And Jesus leaves this little simple phrase where he says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. It seems so simple, doesn't it? So if you put your treasure in stuff, that's where your heart's going to be. But if you put your treasure in the things that Christ calls us to, your heart will be there. Another way to say it is where we spend our time and our money says a great deal about who we are. The thing that struck me about Herod, which was so fascinating to me, was that he always wanted more. Bigger, greater, more stuff, stronger stuff, more powerful stuff, because he had to prove that he was king. And he wanted everybody to see it. Herod's challenge is that kept going through his lineage. Right? We got to go visit another place that was his son's place. A place that was on a top of a mountain where when we got to the top of the mountain, we said, was there anything here? Right? There was like a hole in the ground and a pole. And it at one point was this big fortress. It was actually the place where Herod's daughter, this Herod, Salome, had asked for John the Baptist's life to be taken. They totally missed the point. Because here we are, we're walking up this mountain. It was a great hike, but we get to the top of the mountain and I'm like, it's a good view. But it was just stuff. They missed the point, as John the Baptist declared, prepare ye the way for the Lord. Right? I'm bringing you the good news, the good stuff, and instead they wanted more stuff. They had completely missed the experience. Now, I want to get clear here. The treasure that I want to talk about this morning is people. Spending time with people in your lives. Do you know how many times I've heard parents say, man, the years went by so quickly. I missed those days with my kids. It was hard, right? I didn't sleep a lot, but I missed it. Or people who've had friendships that have gone by the wayside, and they said, I remember when I used to go out and hang out with those friends. I miss them. Or siblings who don't see each other. You get what I'm talking about, right? This treasure, and I think we miss this treasure that's right in front of us. As we enter this season we call the holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving, they're just going to get more busy. My question this morning is, where is your treasure? Is it going to be in stuff or is it going to be in people? Marie Kondo is very interested in people getting rid of their clutter. She wants them to have decluttered lives. And if you watch her, she says it so sweetly as she's telling you, you have too much junk. You have too much stuff in your home. And she wants you to hold it. And to do this thing where you say, this sparks joy in me. Today in your bulletin, and I'm going to give you some time in a few minutes to do this. Today in your bulletin, and I don't have mine. Oh, yeah, I do. You have a joy list. And we're going to give you some time during communion, and you can sit around with people around you, maybe your family. And I want you to fill out your joy list this morning. Don't take it home because you won't do it. Fill it out here. Put names of people on this list. Don't put stuff on this list, but put names of people. Who are the people that spark joy in you? Now, here's the problem. If you fill out this list and there's more than one name on it, it is going to take you some time. It's going to take you some energy to spend time with these people, which means, guess what? You may not get everything else done this year. You may not get every Christmas card sent out. You may not be fully decorated. You may not buy 9 more presents for people who don't need gifts. You may not get them wrapped beautifully. But I can guarantee you that if you invest in the treasures that Christ calls us to, which is the treasure of people, your Christmas and your Thanksgiving will be different this year. Your Christmas and your Thanksgiving will have different meaning. It'll have different feeling. You'll be making room for the people in your lives. Today after worship, we're going to be making room. We're making room for kids at South Lakes High School who have food needs. We're packaging meals for kids in this community who are hungry. We're making rooms for families and children all over our community. And we're making room to hear Jackie's presentation about kids in our community who are joining gangs because they're in kindergarten or first grade because they don't have anywhere to go after school. Friends, we're making room for the treasure that Christ calls us to. Here's my hope. My hope is that this season is different. And look, I call it the holiday season because that's what everybody else does. You can either fight them or join them, right? But I hope that it's different for you. I hope that you take time in the grocery store to make room for the cashier who's working. I hope you take time when you're driving to make room for the driver that's a little more erratic than you are. I hope you take time for your coworker who needs it. I hope you take time for the kids who are sitting in worship around you. You know, friends, we say often that we're a church that welcomes all people. And we do. We want to be. It's really hard to welcome all people when we're too busy in our everyday lives to interact with any person. My call is for this to be different. For you to find your treasure in a different place this year. I wonder if you can make this season leading up to Christmas a time to make room for people that you want to show love and figure out how to do that in the time that you have. Because, y'all, life is not about building castles and fortresses. I actually think life is about bringing color to other people's lives. Do you know how many people in the world are like Brian? Feeling black and white, feeling invisible. And you have this call to bring the treasure of color to their lives. Because all it took for Brian was for one kid to bring him a little bit of color, to make a little bit of room. And then all of a sudden, he feels seen and valued. I pray that you get treasure out of other people and other people get treasure out of you.